Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. This is a special edition because in this episode, we're going to discuss how to bring the Foster Care Adoption Awareness Reading Program to your school. The Foster Care Adoption Awareness Reading Program runs through the entire month of May, which is National Foster Care Month. In 2023, I worked with two 8th grade Girl Scouts to create the lesson aimed at creating an understanding and empathy around the topic of adoption, something we often don't talk about because we don't know how. Embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, this innovative curriculum celebrates the unique identities of every child. Through a compassionate introduction, guided reading of my heartwarming children's book, Are You a Forever Family?, and engaging activities designed to stimulate dialogue and understanding, participants embark on a journey of discovery and acceptance. And so with us in this episode, we have Jamie Strauss and Linda Armbruster. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
This is such a neat experience for our listeners. So here's the background, okay? Jamie and Linda, they're teachers at the same elementary school where my husband teaches art, and they've been coworkers for like a super long time. So their students are his students because he teaches the whole school. And here's the background. You've got some seriously cool veteran teachers here. So Jamie's been teaching for 22 years, a super incredible amount of time. She currently teaches kindergarten, and she collaborated as we were writing the lesson plan for the Foster Care Adoption Awareness Reading Program. She also, sidebar, was an editor for my newest book, What to Know When You Adopt Through Foster Care. So she's got lots of wonderful skills, very passionate in this space. And she helped me pilot the reading program in her classroom where we co-taught the lesson to kindergartners in 2023. It was the sweetest thing. And then Linda, you thought 22 years is a long time. Linda's been teaching slightly longer than Jamie for 28 years. And she currently teaches 3rd grade and started teaching the lesson annually also during the pilot year in 2023. Now, my daughter, who we call Little Sister, also a podcast guest in season 1, she was one of Linda's students. And because Jamie randomly got sick, had a fever, had the flu, Linda actually came with me across the state of Missouri in 2024 to present at a conference for Missouri early educator teachers at a conference called Conference on the Young Years. And we presented this lesson. So they've taught this lesson multiple times now. And I just recently actually was in Jamie's classroom doing this. Linda has taught it twice this school year because she just loves it so much. So they are going to tell you, because they were part of when things were a little bit different, we kind of improved upon our experience, what it's all about. So we're going to start with, we know how long you've both been teaching, multiple decades, which is super cool. So we're all like, you guys are amazing. Thank you for all that you do for our students. I know everyone's thinking that. We want to know though, do you have children of your own? And then why did you say yes to teaching the Foster Care Adoption Awareness Reading Program? And Jamie, we'll start with you.
Oh, sure. So I do have children of my own. I have a 9-year-old and a almost 13-year-old. And I just have always had a special place in my heart for adoption. I have family members that are adopted. So both my cousins were adopted, and then some of my cousins adopted children of their own. And then I just have lots of friends and family that have adopted as well. So I'm just kind of, it's all around. So I know how important it is.
Which becomes really sweet as I'm sitting in Jamie's classroom and I get to be the author reading the book, and Jamie explains there's part in the book that says sometimes forever families look alike and sometimes forever families do not look alike. And Jamie's able to share how she has both of those stories in her own family. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet. So Linda, how about you? Children, motivation for the lesson?
I have 3 girls, a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 17-year-old, all my own biological children. I haven't been touched by adoption as much as Jamie's experiences have taken her, but I taught next door to Nathan for a number of years and got to know his story as he was going through his journey with Marcy, through fostering and adoption. And it just, you were presented with little people that have big stories to tell, and you just don't know, what stories they have. And so they need to be able to see themselves as much as they can and feel safe and valued in your classroom. So just recognizing that they could be touched by this personally, or building their hearts so that they can understand others who are touched by it is just really important for youngsters.
And you've had students that, I mean, especially having my daughter, which is so cool, that have been adopted, which is neat. And I should mention for folks, so Nathan is my husband, and he actually is the very first podcast episode. So if you want to hear a little bit from my husband as well, it's a neat little factoid. So you had both taught the lesson during the pilot year. I loved that you all said yes to helping with that. And it meant you were trying something that we tried to write with really good intent. Jamie helped kind of screen it, but I'm curious what that experience was for you to teach on the topic of adoption, which from my understanding is not something we normally do. So it's kind of different. So Linda, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so a lot of the literature we have a lot of read alouds and stories, but the families are starting to look different, but I kind of racked my brain. I don't remember any of those read alouds having that, with an adoption theme or families that adopted families as characters in the story. I don't think I was nervous going into it. It was very laid out very well. The questions made sense. The questions were very proactive in addressing what the kids might be asking. I felt the resources were there. I was excited to share it more than anything. I wasn't very nervous to share it at all.
So neat. You were like, you said, let's just do it. Let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, teaching elementary, you have that culture of these kids that are eager to do something new. So that's also very special too. Oh, I have something very special today. And then they're all amped up. They're ready to go. So it makes it exciting too.
It's a great sell to present the lesson. That's so sweet. Jamie, what was it like for you? Because you got to see everything before it ever got distributed. And I know you were even helpful in talking to your principal and letting others like Linda, the whole building get invited. And so what was it like for you to be like, I sort of help with this, but now I got to bring it to my students. What was that like?
Well, it was really neat to see it in action. And then we were able to actually make some tweaks and changes to it to just keep improving it and probably keep doing that some more. Every time you teach it, you personalize it. And last year when I taught it, or in 2023, the pilot year, I had a student who was adopted. And so there was a little bit of nerves because I wanted to make sure that I represented everything appropriately and accurately. But in the end, the best part was just the look in her eyes when she could make that connection that it was just the kids in the book were just like her. And that's why we do what we do.
Which was the sweetest moment for me. That was the most special thing when you introduced the topic we're on the carpet and you and I are in the chairs and you talk about what we're going to talk about. And I remember she raised her hand and she was so proud. And she said, I am adopted. And I was telling you later that that it was this weird moment where next to her, this little boy was like, well, why? And I was like, I don't know what to do. And you as the teacher were like, that's okay. We're going to be talking about it. You kind of moved it along. And I remember she raised her hand a second time and she said, I want to share. And to me, that was the coolest thing ever because one, somebody at home worked with her. They already let her know how absolutely special she is and how it's absolutely okay to talk about it. But then two, I love that she eagerly wanted to share with her peers. It was, to me, a very special moment to witness all that. But I also love, Jamie, just watching your teacher wonderfulness that was like, hey, we're moving right along because this is getting real weird. So it turned out so beautiful to see all that come to action. And you both have already taught it this year. I think, Linda, you taught it twice because you wanted to prep before we presented to the state, and then you did it again. So why don't we start with Linda? What was that like both times that you have presented the lesson?
I teach third grade. So it just, they become change makers in third grade. We emphasize that a lot. We emphasize that through their actions and their writing. And so when you plant a seed of something like this, they want to, I don't know, talk about it, take action. They feel it deeply. So it's very heartwarming to do the lesson with them. So,
and you've had some very empathetic questions coming out of it, like, where are these kids? And
yes.
Really first, it sounds like they're firsthand experiencing the lesson, thinking I want to learn more about these kids and I want to help these kids.
They do. They ask, well, what happens to them after? Well, why are they in there in the first place? And they do. They want to connect with it, very on a very personal level. And again, I think planting that seed of, empathy and just, realizing that families look lots of different ways, and we need to be able to welcome everyone and include everyone and make everyone feel safe to tell their story. And if they don't tell their story, that's okay. And just treat people like good humans. And yeah, they felt it deeply, and they again wanted to take action. And when I grow up I want to. And one of my students said, well, when we're settled, actually my mom was talking about perhaps bringing in a new sibling for us. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. They want to share connections with adoption, and they want to take everyone in, because 115,000 kids not adopted is not good enough for them. That's not good. They want to take care of them.
I love how caring they are. Yeah, Jamie's daughter was in the classroom yesterday as we just taught, which was so like very fresh to ask Jamie about this. But I remember your daughter, I was there to explain to her how like Jamie's been such a change maker in this space and how impactful it is because it's a catalyst and it's like helping create this national movement. And she was like, do you think my mom, by teaching this, is getting like 115,000 down to like maybe 110? And I was like, maybe, because I was like, it takes about 18 months for a family to like go through the process. But I was like, yeah, like that's the whole point, is we're trying to get that number. And so I just love that she was like mathematically going, okay, this is how my mom is helping with this. It was so sweet. So Jamie, you had quite the like entourage yesterday. What, you had the PE teacher came, the principal came, you had like people that were so eager to see this all come alive in your classroom yesterday. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so one of our PE coaches came in. She has followed some of your podcasts and checked out your books. She was really just interested in hearing more about this program that we've been talking about. So I invited her in, and then I invited in our principal, and they, I think, all really just enjoyed watching me teach the lesson, you read your book, and all the joy that you brought reading, your personal stories. And because your book is based on true stories and real families. And so I think that meant even more to the kids. But it was a really great lesson. And even though it's kindergarten, they can make connections. Sometimes their connection is they think of adoption and they think of adopting a pet. And that's okay, because at that level, that's what they know. And so one of the questions that we ask is talking about the superheroes, and do you know any superheroes that were adopted? And so then of course they start naming all the superheroes, and I'm like, well, I don't know about that one, but I do know of Batman and Superman, and then we kind of turn it back to the course that we're supposed to be talking about. But they really want to find a connection to this story, and also just the cause.
Yeah, I remember sitting there and I was like, I don't know what some of these characters are, but then there's a whole list in the lesson. So if you're listening, you're thinking, I don't know what they all, you don't have to know, because like we provide that for you as like a discussion point. But it was sweet because you're right. All of the illustrations in the children's book, all the families mentioned, they're real families that I know. Many of them are actually podcast guests as well. But because at your school, they're my husband's students, it takes it another level because we're in the book. And in the book, he has this like incredible facial hair, but none of the people are colored. Like we're just colorful. So I think he's got the blue beard, and I've got like purple hair. And I got word today when my husband, we were messaging, I was like, we taught Mrs. Strauss's class today. He's like, yes. And they told me I need to color my hair blue, which I asked them to do. So I love that they were like, I remember seeing you as a cartoon character in this book. It was so sweet. And I thought it was neat too, Jamie, because we made some changes in the introduction. I know in the launch year, we had a lot of kids resonating with the pet piece, which was like, okay, we'll work with that. But this year we tweaked it a bit, and not a single child in your classroom said anything about pets. Everyone knew about kids being adopted. It was an interesting shift.
Well, and this year I started off with asking them what they thought a family was, and just taking a couple of different responses. And This is actually something we've done in our language arts curriculum, and just having the kids explain in their own words the definitions of things. And they come up with the best answers, like better than we could come up with. And so they're adding that personal piece to it. And so it just made for a really great opener to the lesson. And then just as I keep teaching it, I keep asking other questions, looking for them to give me definitions or connections that they have, and just really keep them engaged.
It was beautiful and turned out so well. And so, Jamie, you actually helped advocate. I mean, you were helping with the lesson in of itself, but then you helped bring it to your school. And I know some of our listeners, they might be educators, or maybe they're parents of school-age children, and some no educators. Like, we're all kind of connected somehow. And I'm curious, can you help our listeners understand how simple it is to bring this to the classroom, to a district, to a homeschool, whatever the scenario might be?
Yeah, absolutely. It, I mean, you could do it in this month for foster adoption. But in kindergarten, we also have an entire unit on families. So it feeds in perfectly to that unit as well. So next year, maybe I'll teach it in the beginning and then, touch on it again later in the year. And all I did was I went to my principal and I just explained, like, we want all children to be seen and heard and feel like they belong. And children that are in the foster care or being adopted, they aren't represented in our stories, in our books. And so this is just a way that we can include them and start to build that dialogue.
And the response was immediately yes, or how did that go?
Uh, I mean, it was pretty much a yes. I showed her the lesson so she would see like what the questions were. Um, but yeah, I mean it's all talking about, diversity and equity, and there isn't anything in there that was going to upset anybody. So yeah, it was a go ahead and teach it, and see if other people want to teach it as well.
Just so neat. And for those that are listening, so I do bring a paperback version of the book to Jamie's classroom when I teach. And some people use paperback, but the actual lesson itself that's on forgottenadoptionoption.com, I have a free digital version of it. There's a version where like you can press play and I'm actually reading it to your students virtually, or there's a version where you can just flip through. So just know that all of this is free to you to utilize. And in fact, included are some modern apps like Kahoot and Gimkit. There's discussion questions. There's printable coloring pages from the book, which are super popular. And so I'm curious, Linda, of all of those kind of ways to engage with the lesson, what activities do you find most like connecting in your classroom?
The pre questions and the follow-up questions, just to bring it all to a discussion, and making sure that if the kids have further questions that we can clarify, or just let's table that and let's find out more about it. One of the students asked, do foster kids go to school? Because they didn't understand, if you're living in a temporary home, does that mean you still go to school? And so just kind of clarifying that information was really important. So the questions, the follow-up questions in particular, were wonderful. But we're gamers, so we love the Kahoot, and they got 100% on the last one.
Nice.
That was really good. It's a very engaging story. I totally agree with Jamie. The pictures are so friendly and joyful. One of my students, that's how he connected so much to it, was he loved how the colors, right? He loved the colors of the hair, the skin, and he just thought that was so smart. He got the meaning behind that, and he that's what drew him in, and that's what got him personally connected, as Jamie was saying. So we did the coloring pages. It's like pick your path. Who wants to do Kahoot? Oh, everyone. Okay, who wants to do the coloring pages? How about this one? How about this one? How about this one? Take it home. What's your favorite one? Talk to your parents about it. Tell them what we did today. So we loved everything.
It's so touching to hear how this all happens, because I remember sitting, so the eighth graders and I, they're now in ninth grade. but we met in one of the girls' basements, and we met every week all the way January through May of 2023. And I remember asking, like reaching out to different partners and saying, okay, give me something someone's doing that we can model after. And kind of the unanimous response was, nobody does this, Mercy. So like, maybe just don't do this. And I was like, okay, that doesn't help, because they'd already like signed out to do their project for Girl Scouts. So I went to the meeting and I was like, hey, kind of did some research and this is the response. And they responded just like your students. They were like, then we have to do it. Like, we don't care. Like, we'll make it up and we'll figure it out. And so it's neat to see how that's iterated, because one of the resources that was not in the pilot year that now is part of the printable lesson is a frequently asked questions guide, because a lot of that came from just the experience of what you all had shared in others in the 5 districts that participated about common things that kind of came up. And so if there is anyone listening that's thinking, I don't know if I can respond to some of these questions, like we already kind of cover that for you and give you good language on it. And Jamie, your students also got 100% on the Kahoot. And I remember there being a lot of laughter because some of the answers are rather silly, like it's a crayon color.
Yeah,
So
but that kept them engaged. And we actually changed some of the questions from the pilot year. Because as we did it with the kids, we realized some of the answers were just a little too similar and they weren't quite sure. And so this really helped them remember better. And the lesson is actually, it's organized really well. I know as a teacher, we don't have a lot of time to prepare for all the different lessons that we teach, and everything is all in one spot. So you can just, open it up. You see it's literally laid out in the steps, do step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through. You click on any links that you need. You can print it all out. You can display it if you have that capability. But it makes it just really easy to just quickly review and then share with the students.
Which is so fun. And your students really liked the coloring pages, because I have a shirt in both black and purple that says, are you a forever family on it? It's one of the pages in the book. And your students picked up on that. And so when you were handing out the coloring sheets, I was like, by the way, there's one that's this page and you could like color it and then maybe make it into like a t-shirt, just tape it on. And that was like gone. Like you don't have any left.
Right. And the other one, so one of the coloring pages has a map of the United States on it. And another one has the number 115,000 children are waiting to be adopted. And we had talked about that number when you were reading the book. And when I was making the copies, I thought, oh, everybody's just going to want these, the families. And I thought about leaving those 2 out. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to put them out. Well, those 2 were gone. And the kids really connected to that. They connected to that number and how that is a number that, unfortunately, it's a big number, but it's a number that can change. And this is a way that we can make it change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so as we're kind of wrapping up, I'm curious, because you all kind of shared some questions that happened, some conversations. You've been part of this multiple years as the materials have improved with you and grown with you. I'm curious if there's any encouragement, advice you would give to someone that's thinking, okay, this sounds really neat and I'm going to go try, but like, what if I mess up? Or like, what's the thing I need to know? How would you answer that, Jamie?
Well, for my fellow educators out there, I mean, we've all had our first round of teaching something. And we know that it's not going to be a smooth road, and you do your best and you leave yourself sticky notes and ways to improve it. And the same goes with this lesson. Personally, I noticed that when Marcy came into my room, she brought pictures of her adoption day.
Which is your idea, pilot year, by the way. I take no credit. They're 5x7s. Jamie said, bring it will connect. So I brought them again this year.
And the kids really looked at them and made a connection with that. And so I realized that next year when I teach this lesson, I should have pictures of my families that I'm talking about, my cousins and my friends, because they're seeing that real life and they're able to make that connection. So if you as an educator have people that you know and they're okay with you sharing your pictures, bring those in, because that just helps make it more real for our students.
So sweet. I actually kept the same ones from last year. Like they're in a little spot where all my materials are. So I'm like, I can just bring those out anytime now, thanks to Jamie. How about you, Linda? Like, I mean, you've done it twice in a school year, and I know you've gotten different things in your mind because of that. What is your advice?
Again, it's so thoughtful in terms of the questions you can ask before. It's very friendly. The book is just joyful. I don't think you can do it wrong because it's, it's just really about family and love. So you can't do that wrong. And if we're doing it for kids that might be in a situation where they've been touched by adoption or whatever the case may be, it's just definitely worth it. It's worth your time. The response you get from the kids, they want to do something about this. They want to put it in the right direction. They want to make a positive change. So it's definitely worth it. It'll fill your heart for sure.
And it sparks great conversations. Okay, so final question. So there might be somebody listening to this episode, and it's not the month of May. It's not National Foster Care Month. And they're like, okay, do I want to do it later? Like, so I do the May thing, or can I just do it now? And I know you all have some creative ideas on like, you could really teach this lesson anytime. It doesn't really matter if you do it in May. Linda, do you want to talk a little bit about that on maybe other ways? Maybe I'm listening in August and school's about to start, or it's December and I'm thinking through things. What else could I do with this lesson?
I mean, I know a lot of schools are looking to find ways to make sure all kids, are feeling included, and they might have DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. I know our district's is always searching for ways to improve in that area. So really, this is just another way to make sure students have voice and can possibly see themselves in literature and spark really wonderful discussions and grow hearts. So launching it at the beginning of the year, I think, is a wonderful thing as you create community within your classrooms. I mean, really, any time of year you can remind them or revisit again in May just to honor the month. But it's something that can be really anytime you want to build community and heart in kids.
So beautiful. Jamie, any other ideas? I know you mentioned earlier about the family unit, which is like a usually kindergarten thing. Is there any other place you would recommend time of year that got?
I mean, every group of students is just slightly different. So as an educator, you just kind of know your group of kiddos that you have that year, and you're just going to find the right time to teach this lesson and what works for you as your community.
There's really not a bad time. It's just as simple as that is. I appreciate you both so much. Jamie, thanks for being part of getting this off the ground before any other people saw it. And Linda, thanks for filling in for Jamie. I love that we've had this opportunity together, because I know that as others take the lesson and try it out, I want to hear your feedback just as much too, because it helps every year make it more simple. One thing we did between year 1 and year 2 is you have one single file. It was a few different clicks and things, but it worked and it was fine for year 1. But we'd love to hear your feedback and know how you're using it and how it's reaching the families that you're working with. And so thank you, Linda. Thank you, Jamie, for taking time to share your experience and to champion for these kids and to foster this in your classroom. It's absolutely amazing. Really appreciate you both.